Brazil Museum fire, funding sought to rebuild collection. Brazilian President Michel Temer says the government is seeking funding from companies and banks to help rebuild the National Museum in Rio de Janeiro after it was destroyed by fire. Education Minister Rocieli Soares said international help was also being sought and talks with the UN's cultural body, UNESCO, were underway. Museum officials say almost 90% of the collection has been destroyed. Staff have blamed the fire on years of funding cuts. The museum housed one of the largest anthropology and natural history collections in the Americas. It included the 12,000-year-old remains of a woman known as Lusa. On Monday, President Temer's office said he had held talks with officials from major Brazilian banks and businesses to examine ways to reconstruct the museum as soon as possible. Addressing reporters outside the ruined building, Mr. Soares said the federal government had set aside an initial 15 meters reais, £2.8 million, $3.6 million, to rebuild the structure and restore its collection. How did the fire start? An investigation has been launched, but Culture Minister Sergio Leitão told the Estado de São Paulo newspaper that the most likely causes were an electrical fault or a homemade paper hot air balloon landing on the roof. The fire started on Sunday evening, after the building, a 19th-century former royal palace, closed for the day. It is not yet clear if the museum was insured. The city's fire chief, Roberto Robati, said nearby hydrants were dry when emergency services arrived. He said crews had to get water from a nearby lake and from tanker trucks. "Yesterday was one of the saddest days of my career," he said. On Monday, fire crews were sifting through the charred wreckage, occasionally emerging with an artifact or a painting they had managed to rescue. What has the reaction been? Riot police fired tear gas outside the park housing the museum on Monday as a small, irate crowd tried to enter. Many demonstrators were angry at the budget cuts that they say led to the fire. The protesters were later allowed to surround the museum's perimeter in a symbolic embrace. Luiz Fernando Dias Duarte, a deputy director at the museum, expressed immense anger, and accused Brazilian authorities of a lack of attention. "We fought years ago, in different governments, to obtain resources to adequately preserve everything that was destroyed today," he said. One issue appears to be the lack of a sprinkler system. Mr. Dias Duarte told Globo TV that a $5.3 million, £4.1 million, modernization plan agreed in June would have included modern fire prevention equipment, but only after October's elections. Roberto Lehr, rector of the Rio de Janeiro Federal University which administers the museum, said the community was very mobilized, and very indignant. "We all knew the building was vulnerable," he said. What did the museum contain? The flames tore through hundreds of rooms containing some 20 million artifacts. They ranged from fossils and the reconstructed skeleton of a dinosaur to Roman frescoes and pre-Columbian Brazilian objects. The jewel in the crown for many visitors was Lusa, the oldest human remains ever discovered in Latin America. Lusa is a priceless loss for everyone interested in civilization, museum director Paulo Noss told AFP news agency. Using her skull, experts had produced a digital image of her face, which was used as the basis for a sculpture that was also gutted by the fire. Another popular exhibit was the Bengo meteorite, weighing more than 5 tons and discovered in Minas Gerais region in the 18th century. Deputy Director Cristiana Cerejo said it had survived along with part of the zoological collection, the library and some ceramics.